Hello everyone, Andrew Meet Rich here. I want to tell you something before we dive into today's stories. I spent years working for one of the biggest, most recognizable media outlets in the world, and I watched it all happen from the inside. I saw how the facts got bent, how stories got shaped to fit someone else's agenda, and how truth became optional when the ratings were on the line. So, I made a choice. I left. Now I work independently. No one edits my words, no one spins the truth before it reaches you. I tell you what really matters, and I do it without holding back. And if what I just said resonates with you, if you're sick of the noise and the manipulation, then do me a favor. Hit that like button, hit subscribe, and consider becoming a channel sponsor. Seriously, it keeps this thing going, it keeps me free, it's how we push back. And frankly, it would mean the world to me. All right, let's get into it. So here's the headline that's rattling Europe right now, and trust me, Brussels is not happy. The Czech Republic just brought back Andrej Babiš, a billionaire businessman and former prime minister who's now set to return to power. His populist movement swept the parliamentary elections. The people, and I mean a clear majority, voted for him. Second place went to the civic conservative bloc led by the current prime minister Petr Fiala. Fiala has already congratulated Babiš because what else can he do? The writing's on the wall. Now, Babiš ran on a slogan that sounds awfully familiar. We must think about ourselves first. Sound like anyone else? Yeah, exactly. It's basically Czech Republic first. And the experts are already weighing in. They're saying Babiš can't govern alone. He'll need a coalition. And here's where it gets interesting. Czech President Petr Pavel, a former NATO general, is already drawing red lines. He's made it clear he won't appoint ministers with anti-NATO views. But hold on, Babiš isn't anti-NATO. He's already come out publicly supporting both NATO and the European Union. So what's the real issue here? Well, the issue is he's not the candidate they wanted. He's not the obedient technocrat they can control. And that's scaring people. Experts believe that if Babiš manages to form a coalition, the Czech Republic could pivot away from the liberal policies of Fiala's government and start building stronger ties with Eurosceptic leaders like Hungary's Viktor Orbán and Slovakia's Robert Fico. And you know what that means? That means more voices in Europe saying no to Brussels, more resistance to the centralized control that's been suffocating national sovereignty for years. And yes, the leadership in the European Union is already expressing concern. They're nervous. They should be, because this isn't just about the Czech Republic. This is part of a larger wave, and it's only getting stronger. Now let's talk about Germany, because things over there are falling apart fast. In the latest poll from INSA, published by Bild, the ruling coalition between Friedrich Merz's Union and the Social Democrats has dropped to just 38%. That's the lowest they've been since taking power. Just a week ago, they were at 40%. Meanwhile, the right-wing Alternative for Germany, AfD, is sitting strong at 26% and remains the second most powerful party in the country. Political analysts are joking, darkly, that the black and red coalition is slowly turning pale pink. Support is bleeding out, and the competition is breathing down their necks. Now here's something unusual. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius, who normally loves to stoke fear, has suddenly called for calm. Why? Because drones have been spotted repeatedly over German airports. Pistorius acknowledged the uncertainty but said the drones didn't pose any immediate concrete threat. And that's odd, right? Because this is the same guy who jumps at every opportunity to hype up danger and push for more military spending. But this time, he's urging restraint. What changed? Well, these drone incidents in Bavaria might become the first real test of Germany's new national security architecture. According to German media, these cases are now being handled by the National Security Council, which is still being formed. Multiple agencies, including intelligence services, police, and the Bundeswehr, are working together on a joint report. And by the way, arrests are already happening across Europe. In Frankfurt on October 3rd, they detained a Croatian hobbyist who decided to test his civilian drone over an airport. The day before that, in Norway, 3 Germans were arrested for flying a drone over Rosvoll Airport. A Chinese tourist was also detained and deported from Norway for the same thing. So yeah, people are getting locked up. But the bigger question is, why now? Why this sudden focus on drones over airports? Who's coordinating this? And what are they preparing for? Keep those questions in mind, because I have a feeling we'll be coming back to them. And speaking of Germany, let me tell you about Oktoberfest, because even a national festival can't escape the chaos. Oktoberfest 2025 is not going to bring in the profits they expected. Why? Because on October 1st, the entire festival was shut down from 10 in the morning until 5:30 in the evening. Police swept through the tents and rides looking for explosives. The reason? A fire and the discovery of an explosive device in a residential building in northern Munich that same day. After the sweep, they reopened the grounds, but the festival lost almost half a day of business. And here's the financial hit. Oktoberfest brings in around 40 million euros per day. So this half-day shutdown cost the city roughly 21 million euros. That's not pocket change, that's a serious blow. And it just shows you how fragile everything is right now. One threat, real or perceived, and an entire economic engine shuts down. All right, let's shift gears and talk about something that's been all over the headlines. Greta Thunberg. Yes, that Greta Thunberg. She and over 130 other activists tried to break the blockade of Gaza and were detained by Israeli authorities. Most of them have been deported and arrived in Istanbul yesterday, where they immediately started talking about the unacceptable conditions they were held in. But Greta, she's still in custody. She's 22 years old now, and according to her, the conditions are medieval. She says they're sitting on hard surfaces, getting little food and water, and she's developed a rash, which she suspects is from bedbugs. Yeah, even the bedbugs are getting involved in international politics now. European media jumped on this immediately, because of course they did. It's a dramatic story, and it's getting traction fast. Questions are piling up for the Israeli authorities, and the activists are not staying quiet. They're sharing their stories. But Israeli citizens aren't staying quiet either. On social media, people are furious that they, as taxpayers, are going to have to pay for 473 plane tickets to send Greta Thunberg and her friends back home. One Israeli citizen posted about it, and that post got 10 million views. He wrote, and I'm paraphrasing here, "Why should I, an Israeli taxpayer, have to pay for these European people to fly home? And honestly, I get the frustration. But here's the thing, this situation is messy on all sides. There's the humanitarian angle, there's the political angle, and there's the financial angle. And none of it is simple. So before we make snap judgments, let's just acknowledge that this is complicated. But the anger is real, and it's spreading, and that's worth noting. Now let's talk about something a little more ominous. Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić has decided to weigh in on the rising military spending across NATO countries, and he's saying it's proof that everyone is preparing for a major military conflict. According to Vučić, when you raise defense spending to 5% of GDP, that's enormous money. That means everyone is preparing for war, and he added, "We would like to avoid war." Serbia, he says, wants to stay out of the coming confrontation. And you know what? I think he's reading the room pretty well, because the signals are everywhere. NATO is ramping up, defense budgets are soaring, rhetoric is getting sharper, and now we have a former NATO Secretary General and former UK Defence Minister, Lord George Robertson, coming out and warning British citizens that they need to shift away from peacetime thinking and start preparing for the possibility of a major conflict. He's saying households across the country should stock up on candles, flashlights, water, and battery-powered radios, just in case of war or massive power outages. Let that sink in for a second. A former top NATO official is telling ordinary people to prepare for war at home. That's not a drill. That's not a hypothetical. That's a message, and it's being delivered deliberately. So yeah, the fear-mongering is ramping up, and it's not subtle. Whether it's justified or not, that's another question. But the narrative is clear. They want you afraid, they want you ready, and they want you compliant. Now let's get to the big one. The story that's dominating headlines in the US and creating international intrigue. Donald Trump and the Nobel Peace Prize. Word is Trump's aides are running a full campaign to get him the prize. The Nobel Committee is staying quiet, but according to media reports, they're worried about how Trump might react if he doesn't get it. One committee member even reportedly told journalists he's thinking about calling in sick on October 10th, the day the winner is announced. That's how tense this is. The committee secretary insists there's no direct pressure, but there are campaigns happening, both public and behind closed doors, pushing for Trump. So the intrigue is building. Will he get it or not? The date is coming fast. And Trump himself, speaking at a military base, said he'd like the Nobel Peace Prize, not for himself personally, but for the United States. Then he added that if someone else gets it, it would be an insult to America. So yeah, no pressure on the committee at all, right? And here's the thing that makes this even more absurd. A lot of people still don't understand why Barack Obama got the prize back in 2009. He received it just a few months after taking office. Obama himself showed some humility and admitted he was surprised, saying there were people who deserved it more than him. Critics at the time said the award was given as an advance, based on future hopes, not actual achievements. And now, looking back, many people realize Obama had no positive results to show. None. Zero. So if they gave it to Obama for doing nothing, why not Trump? That's the argument his supporters are making. And honestly, the whole thing feels like a circus. But it's a circus with serious implications because this isn't just about a trophy. It's about legitimacy. It's about narrative. And it's about who controls the story. So yeah, buckle up because October 10th is going to be interesting. All right. Let me quickly recap what we've covered today because there's a lot to process. We started with the Czech Republic, where Andrej Babiš and his populist movement swept the elections, sending shockwaves through the European Union and setting the stage for a potential alliance with Eurosceptic leaders like Orban and Fico. Then we moved to Germany, where the ruling coalition is collapsing in the polls, drones are buzzing over airports, and Oktoberfest took €21 million hit from a security shutdown. We talked about Greta Thunberg sitting in an Israeli detention cell with bedbugs and angry Israeli taxpayers footing the deportation bill. We heard warnings from Serbia's president and a former NATO chief telling people to prepare for war. And we ended with the Nobel Prize drama, Trump campaigning for it while the committee sweats bullets over what happens if he doesn't win. So what does all of this tell us? It tells us the world is fracturing, the old order is cracking, and the people in charge are scrambling to hold it together while pretending everything is fine. But it's not fine. You can feel it, you can see it, and the question is, what comes next? If this video opened your eyes, if it made you think, then show me some love. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and if you really want to support independent truth-telling, consider becoming a sponsor. It's how I stay free. It's how I keep speaking without filters, and honestly, it would mean everything to me. Thanks for watching, stay sharp, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next one.